Greetings, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a very touchy subject and one that many of us can relate to, whether you're a child, an offspring, or you're a parent. Parenting is not an easy thing. And depending on where you are, there's some parents that have more liberty in certain parts of the world. They can do certain things and get away with it. But in some parts, you can't even speak to your child, you know, in a tone that's not hushed. And I think there's a problem with that. I think as Black parents, we should have more liberty to raise our kids the way we wish to raise our kids. And we're not talking about abusing our children, but cultural differences must be considered in the way people raise their kids. And so, as an African, there are things that we believe in our culture that when we apply that to raising our children, they turn out better. If we try to use the methods of some culture to raise our Black kids, we'll see our kids get shot down in the street and still nothing we can do about it. We'll see our kids go into the penal system and go off to prison, and there's nothing we can do about it. So I would wish that policymakers and individuals who are in the law enforcement field will understand that when you allow African people to raise their kids based on their culture, perhaps you might have less problem in the society. I remember when my girls were very young, I would hear other parents who had older kids, older boys, who would try to pull up their boys, using a firmness to raise these boys. And I've heard of incident where a friend son called the police. He was just a early teen, and the police came to her home, and the only reason why she didn't get arrested was because in front of the police officers the young man was being very belligerent. He was very disrespectful to his mom, and they changed their mind, because she did hit him, and they came and they're saying that it was within their right to arrest her, but because of how he was behaving, one of the police officer was a Black man, and he said to the boy, "What are you doing?" And he wanted to have his mom arrested. And the police officer says, "There's something wrong." That police officer said to him, "There's something wrong with this picture, because if we arrest your mom, what happens to your little sister?" And then he started being very rude to um, the police officer. So if my friend is watching this, she'll know who she is. And I always remember that story. So it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. And when you're adding single parent, single mothers to this, it doesn't help when you're hungry, and you have all this responsibility, and you're alone. It's very difficult. There are things that I do different now with a younger daughter than I did with my earlier ones, even though they were really, really, really quiet kids, really good kids. Of course, until my first child, became a teenager. And then, of course, when the teenage years kick in, they become rebellious. And I think when I was raising them, I wanted to be their friend. And I think to a certain extent, and I used to defend that for years, but to a certain extent, I realized that you have to have boundaries with the kids. Now, what are we talking about in this video? I'm talking about parenting, and I'm talking about mistakes that we make as adults, mistake we make as parents. So there are times when my kids will come to me and say, "Oh, you did this or you did whatever." We end up laughing about it, but I still listen to what they're saying. They still have little things. My older daughter still has something that she's like, "Oh, she's still upset with me because I didn't take her somewhere." And the thing is, I didn't take her there because of something that she did. It was a kind of punishment for what she had done. And I felt she had left me with no choice, because I usually give them a warning. I do the same thing with my younger daughter. I give them a warning. There's repercussions. Now, when she tells me this, I don't really go into arms to say, "Oh, you shouldn't feel this way." You can't tell people how to feel. But I usually sometimes remind her why I did that thing. And so, as a parent, it's not easy, but I think it's right to listen to your kids, especially when they become, you know, they're teenagers and they're older and they can express their feelings. I think as Black parents, we don't really allow our kids to express their feelings. For some reason, we think that they should just shut up and not tell us anything. And that's not really right. what I really wanted to do, and I wanted to do this as a live so I could get some feedback from some people. This video is not to bad women, or call them bad parents or anything of the kind. This video is just to talk about the things that we need to talk about, whether you're guilty or you're innocent. If your kid accuses you of being a terrible parent, of harming them, and you know within yourself that it's not true, let them speak, let them express themselves. But somehow you have to find a way to meet in the middle, to see if you can resolve these issues. I find with girls, their girls and their moms tend to have this volatile relationship when they're teenagers, because they're coming into womanhood, and the mom is there trying to lead them a particular way, and sometimes they don't listen. And girls can be very rebellious, so can boys too, when the father is absent and the mom's the one raising them. And as Black women, sometimes we have double standards. We raise the girls a particular way and we raise the boys differently. The girls, of course, can't even venture to the gate at sunset, but the boys can go out and stay till early morning. The boys, in some households, don't do chores, and the girls do everything for themselves and their parents and everyone else in the household. These things cause resentment. But I don't think there's any parent who don't have conflict with their children. It's just what it is, because kids often feel they know everything. They think they know everything, and when you try to tell them, they're not listening to you. And a lot of times, as parents, when they're not listening, we get very angry, because we're thinking, if you go down that road, and I know you're gonna fall into that pit. When you're in that pit, I don't want to pick you out. You're trying to stop them from doing that, but sometimes they got to fall in the pit. They have to make their mistakes so that they can learn from it. But as parents, we want to save them from themselves sometimes. But I want to talk about the kids. They need a voice. Those individuals who have suffered immense hardship at the hands of their parents and their mothers in particular. Some of the moms, because of course, as I said in another video, these moms not giving birth to these kids with a manual, so they're trying to figure it out as they go along, and oftentimes they're giving to their children what they got, which is oftentimes dysfunctional. Just today, someone was saying to me, I challenged someone to tell me about three families that she knew, that mom and dad was there and the kids were whatever. Three friends, three of her close friends were having really good relationships. Not to say there isn't. I'm just trying to say that the amount of women that come to me in private emails, in private conversation, random women on the bus, it could be at the doctor's office, it could be anywhere. Women who just start talking about their relationship with men and talking about raising children on their own and how difficult that is. So it's very common in our community. So we're not talking about the exception to the rule. There are women who have wonderful relationships, wonderful marriages, and kids are raised in the household, mom and dad. We're not really talking about the situation. I'm talking about those single households, single mother household, and how oftentimes the problems that exist in those relationships, is very painful for some of the kids. And moms, it's not as if I want to use this video to condemn you, because every child at one point or the other have negative things to say about parents, and sometimes it isn't true. Sometimes it's not justifiable, but sometimes it is. And in Jamaica, in my place of birth, and here I can't speak too much about the Black community because we're scattered. There's no Black community in the area that I live. I mean, there's not a visible community to say, well, this is the Black community or whatever, so, but based on what I know, it's a struggle. And in Jamaica, some of these stories are heartbreaking. Some of these kids tell you stories of being tied up in ants nests, tell you stories about being beaten, tell you stories about mom spitting in their face, tell you stories about both male and female. Mom, taking broomstick and jamming them under their beds. And these moms are not doing it thinking that they're doing something wrong. They're upset. And a lot of times they feel like they're trying to protect their kids from further pain and suffering down the road. That's what they know. But even if your intention is good, just imagine ramming a child with a broom, just beating a kid with a bat, beating the kid with electrical wires and things like that. It can't be easy. on that child. So even though the kid did something wrong, and that's why I think it's not really good for us to deal with the kids when we're angry. Because when you're angry, you don't really know. You can't control how you're going to behave, and then you feel bad afterwards. And so we see all these stories coming out with boys and are who are now young men talking about the hostile relationship between them and their mom. And it's really heartbreaking. And I am here to say that mom, if you feel that you had a rough life and you had to raise your kids, and sometimes you were angry and you know that within yourself, you said things to the kids sometimes that were hurtful, and you separate between you and your kids and you never got a chance to patch that up, I think you should seize the opportunity to do that. It's okay to say I'm sorry to a child who says you abused me, you did me horrible things. I've been accused of being mean to my adult kid because things happen, and I decided at one point that if you're going to be rude with your mouth and be disrespectful, I'm going to meet you where you're at and I'm going to be rude to you. And so you'll say things to your kid, but at the end of the day, even when they're adults, they might act like they're big and tough and they don't care. They do care. And some of these kids who we think can handle it, they can't handle it. They're scarred emotionally because some of the things we say, some of the things that we do. And what I'm seeing is a trend, a pattern. And I think it's because of the society in Jamaica where, boys are not supposed to cry. And it's not just Jamaica that has that attitude towards boys in general. This whole masculinity, always challenged. But boys can cry, and people say all kinds of rough things to boys. And they think that these guys, they're stone and they don't have feelings. They have feelings and they hurt. And so a lot of times when you see some of these black guys, and when I say it, some black men get offended, but you see these black guys are so angry and so disrespectful to women and violate women in such a way, a lot of time it's their mamas that they're angry with. They don't want to admit, but a lot of times it's their moms that they hate because some of the things that the moms do are quite cruel. Again, some of the women that do some of these cruel things, that's what happened to them. If you look at these women who are so mean spirited and so unkind to their sons or their daughters, sometimes it's because of how they were treated as kids. That's all they know. But we can't continue to accept that to say, well, that's all I know, so that's all I'm going to measure out. So if I get upset at my kid, I have no problem, saying to her, listen, this is why I'm upset. This is what you did. I don't want you doing that anymore. And if I said something that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, because you can offend your kids. You might say things that you think, I'm just trying to scare her, or I'm just trying to, make her realize I'm serious. But at the end of the day, it's okay. It's okay to apologize to your kid, especially when you know you said things that are not right. Because it's not just the physical scars that we have to worry about healing, it's those mental scars. If you want us to talk about this some more on a live video, I can do so. What do you feel about Dalton Harris's mom coming out and explaining her side of the story? And I don't want to drag her name here. I just want to say, same thing happened with Cargo's mom, the situation where it got very public. And, I want to tell these moms not to fall for individuals who are going to call them and get them to speak about these things publicly. These things are supposed to be discussed privately. Now, if after you have resolved things with your son or your daughter, and you feel like sharing with other parents so that they can learn from your experience and see how you handled it and how you've moved past it, that's great. But while you have tension, while you're feeling hurt, while there's a lot of animosity or dirty water under that bridge, it's best that you don't come publicly and discuss this. As in, sorry, as is the case with the young man, who's now battling for a position in the X Factor. I can understand why his story came out. I can understand that. It's reprieve. I can't judge him for speaking his truth. I can't judge him because there are a lot of us who are walking around, a lot of black people, including some of these moms, are mortally wounded. They're so wounded that all they do is transfer those terrible, deep scars to their children or to others around them. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about it. Not that we're trying to judge the moms or judge the dads, because I understand some of the moms. Oh my goodness. When you try to convince me that, black women, have men who are loving them and supporting them, and I'm making it seem like all black women have this support, and that is not true. You know it isn't true. Even some women who are married, some women who are in relationships, have long-term relationship, common law households. Some of these women are, physically have their partner, but emotionally, psychologically, they're scarred. There are some women who have never gotten a back rub from their partner. There are some women whose husband has never taken them out for a breakfast, for lunch, never rub their feet, never say I love you, never say thank you in spite of all that they do. And it's hard. It must be very hard to take. So there's so much packed in this one video that I'm doing. But essentially what I want to talk about is, the question is, do you think that when a mom have done things to her children, and when they become adults, if it helps in her saying I'm sorry? Now, some of the things is so deep. Some of the scars are so deep that I'm sorry is just not good enough in some cases. And in some cases, when you get together with these moms, it's best that you go your separate ways. Because I have reached out to my mom, my biological mother, a few times. Every 10 years, really, because it's like every time I reach out to the lady, she says things or behave in a way that is hurtful. Just 2 years ago, I went to Jamaica trying to reconcile with this lady, looked into what happened in her past, felt great empathy for her, reached out to her, wanted to meet up with her. And the things that she said to me, oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was so awful. This woman, she doesn't really know me because I didn't grow up with her. I told a story about being abandoned, left at home many times, while she go and do her own thing. And I still tried to look past that. I still wanted to have a relationship with her. And let me tell you, it was horrible, the things that she said. And truthfully speaking, all I did on the phone while she was talking to me in a very disrespectful way was just start naming all her children. I was naming all her kids. I just named them one by one, all her kids, as she was speaking, and she was being disrespectful, because I wanted to meet up with her, and she was so abrupt, and she was not really interested, and it did hurt my feelings. Um, and I called her back and I said, this is why you have no relationship with any of your children, because they reach out to you all the time and you always hurt them. Because even though I was an adult 2 years ago, I mean, that was just 2 years ago, 49-year-old woman, I was reaching out to this lady, and in essence, felt rejected. And then, of course, my sister, my elder sister, has stories that are heartbreaking, horrible things done to her. Um, and this lady will never say, I'm sorry. She will never acknowledge. It gets to the point where you're saying, okay, when she asks, what did I do to you? What do I do to my kids? I'm like, forget about it. We're moving past that, trying to reach out. She's stuck in that place. And when she gets the chance or the opportunity to make things right, she doesn't take it. And I have decided that it just doesn't make any sense. I will never curse my mother, my biological mother. I just don't feel like you should curse your parents. But sometimes they provoke you to wrath. But me personally, both the stuff that I've talked about my dad or my mother, I have never ever opened my mouth and said a disrespectful thing to them. I haven't. I'd rather not speak to them. But I don't judge kids who do. I don't judge adult kids who sometimes are disrespectful to their parent, because you don't understand, it's hurtful. And the last person you're expecting to hurt you is your parents. The last person you're expecting to not look out for you. Now, we're not talking about little arguments here and there where you tell them off because they're not listening to you or whatever. We're talking about deep, 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 deep wounds, deep scars, especially kids who have big scars to show, that their parents, their moms do to them. And a lot of Jamaican moms are so defensive, they're not listening. So if the kid comes to them and say to them, listen, you did this and it's hurtful, or if the person is telling them about, they don't understand I statements. The person saying, I feel this way. This is how I feel. Not necessarily say, you did this to me, but I feel this way. They're not listening. They feel like they're justified in all the things that they do. they're kicking and slapping and subjecting their kids. Sometimes relationships that they might have, with abusive men, come into their lives and do horrible things, subjecting their kids to men when they go in and out of relationships. And granted that they're looking for a partner, looking for love, but the kids end up suffering. The kids end up suffering. Horrible things happen to some of these people. And if you have any story to share and you wish to share it here, please do. It's therapy. Sometimes it's good to talk about these things, but if your parent or your mother is someone who you can't talk to, who's so defensive and, is in complete denial, I don't know what it does for these women. If you're finding yourself to be in your 60s and 70 and your kids come to you and say, you hurt me this way, and it's the truth. Why can't you just listen and say, look here, I'm sorry. My friend said that she confronted her mother and she says, why you used to beat me so bad? And the mom said, I'm sorry. Oh gosh, when I didn't have money for the bills, when I had all these things to take care of, I just don't know what to do. I was overwhelmed. She forgave her mom because, even though she was beaten badly when she was young, she still could forgive her mom because the mom said, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not into apologies per se, but I think when you're a child and your mom can say, you know what, I didn't know everything. We all don't know everything. We don't know everything as parents, and we can't hurt our kids even when we love them. Because even in the process of trying to save them from themselves, we sometimes say or do things that leave them with stains, leave them with scars. Isn't it a known fact that many of our Jamaican parents and Jamaican mothers, and it doesn't exclude dads too, because some dads do some terrible things to their sons and to their daughters. I know of a man who lift up his foot and kick his teenage daughter, and I don't like him to this day because of it. He used to really abuse that girl. When I say abuse her, real terrible, some of the stories. So when you see all this violence in Jamaica, and this rage and this anger, and individuals coming to attack you even though they don't know you, you say something in a video like this one and they come to you and they say the most degrading things to you. Sometimes you're not laughing it off, but you have to know these guys are mortally wounded. Trust me, the psychological problems, a lot of these rude things that people are saying to you on the internet, is because they're psychologically damaged by women. They hate women because of the things that they've done to them. And most times, older sisters or moms or grandmothers, krill. And though they might have had the same cruelty done to them, somehow they don't feel guilty to say, well, oh my gosh, I did this. It's okay to say, I'm sorry. It's okay to let your kids say, this is what you did, but they don't want to hear it. I don't know. It makes them feel too bad. They don't want to hear it. Now they'll accuse you of things. There are kids who will accuse you of things and you're innocent. But if you know you're innocent, you'll have a witness. People will know. My kids could say whatever they want to say about me, but people that know me know how dedicated I was to my kids, and I still am. And when they have done things that are naughty, and there's always someone you can share that struggle with as a parent going through your thing. Now that I have a younger child, I don't know anybody in my age group who has a child that age, and I don't really have a lot of young friends per se. But raising your children and doing it without a community is very difficult. And as a mom, when my female friends call me and tell me about the problems they're having with their kids, and sometimes they're angry and sometimes they're saying some harsh things, I always chalk that out to the fact that they're frustrated. And then I try to be in the middle to listen to their side of the story, encourage them. And when they're seeing the kid as a demon or a devil, I always say, no, I understand, it's difficult raising a child, and I know what you're saying. I understand. But I never leave that conversation without at least trying to calm that mom and trying to talk to the child if the child is there, or if the mom feel comfortable with me speaking to the child, trying to bring them back together. I never agree with a mom and say terrible things to her about her children. And I never try to say terrible things to the kids about their mom. I always want to be in the middle, to be that peacekeeper. And anyone who knows me knows that I will never say anything bad about anybody's child, no matter how bad they are, no matter how the situation get out of hand, because sometimes it just takes a mediator to bring these people together peacefully. And so for all these artists that are out there having conflicts with their moms and stuff, I don't judge them. I understand why some of these guys are angry. I understand why they're not having a relationship, because some of these women are so wounded, and so they pass it on to the kids, and the kids feel it. What they do need, though, is a mediator, someone in the room to let the boy or the girl speak, talk about her experience without feeling guilty, that people gonna jump over him or jump over her to say, you're a horrible person, you should be saying that, you should just pretend that the mommy is perfect. A lot of these women are not perfect. Some of these women are cruel. And as I said, some of them are very cruel because of things that happen to them too. But that doesn't justify the other person, wounds and pains. And that doesn't mean that the other person don't get a chance to express their feeling. They need this. Otherwise, we carry it into the next generation. You need a mediator in the room, someone who is best interest. The best interest is in the room is to bring them together. The intention is, or the goal is to bring both son and daughter, mother and daughter together. And so I have no vested interest in you staying angry with your mom, or she staying angry with you, or with your dad, or vice versa son. The aim is to sit there and let them get it out, because this pain is like cancer. It's deep. It hurts. And so for Dalton, for example, someone reaches out to him and ask him a question, and before you know it, maybe he just wanted someone to talk to him about that, and before you know it, it all comes out. All the years, all the pain, all the suffering, all the feelings of rejection just comes flooding out. And when you listen to mom explain her side of things, because she doesn't really know any better, doesn't know that when you come out and say all these things, it's just going to make you look more guilty. My aim and intention is to see these individuals at some point sit in a room and get some kind of counseling where they acknowledge where they have gone wrong, and at some point make peace. Kids don't just get up and say, I hate mom, I hate dad, when they're adults. When they're teenagers, oh yeah, they hate you for everything. But as they're getting older, if they can't come and say, mom, you know what, I love you, and whatever, I need us to come together in peace and harmony. If as you're getting older, you're 50, you're 60, you're 70, and the further older you get, the further your kids move away from you. There's something wrong with that picture. Stay blessed, everybody. If you want to talk about this some more, if you want to share some of your experiences on the live, let me know. I could schedule that and we could meet up and chat. Stay blessed, everyone.